Good evening, folks. And we do have a quorum already, which is nice. This is the June 20th, 2022 meeting of the Vashon-Maury Island Community Council, which will soon be transitioning to the Vashon-Maury Community Council. And I'd like to welcome you all. As you folks have probably gathered over the years, the Vashon-Maury Island Community Council works effectively when we have good participation from the community. And so your participation at these meetings is very important. I'll hand over the mic now to Nick, who is going to explain. Nick Simmons will explain the technical issues that will be helpful for you in these meetings.
Standard stuff, please, particularly on Vashon, where our internet is not the best, only join with one device from a household. Share it with multiple people if you need multiple people in the meeting from one household. Keep yourself muted unless you want to speak. And if you do want to speak, use the reactions button, and in there you'll find raise hand. Sometimes, depending on what platform you're using, raise hand is just kind of on its own as a button that you can click. The chair will call on you, that's David, and then you can say your piece, and then please mute yourself again. And I've got a pretty fast hand on the mute button, so I'm muting people as they come in. No one has joined on a phone, so this is slightly irrelevant, but you can press *6 to unmute yourself if you're joining by touch-tone telephone. That's it, thanks.
Thank you, Nick. And now I'd like to formally welcome you all to the meeting of the Community Council. One thing that I would like to say, and it hasn't been an issue the past few meetings, is that these meetings should be conducted with common courtesy. Do not treat someone poorly just because they have a different point of view. And if someone insists on misbehaving, we'll just have to, have them leave the meeting. But that hasn't been an issue recently, and so I'm glad. And one of the best things about the Community Council is that you should feel free to express your opinion, whatever that opinion is. And, if we have disagreements, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So with that, I'd like to review the agenda for this week, see if there are any issues that need to be corrected. We've sent out the agenda, and I'd like to know if there's anyone who, having reviewed the agenda, would like to make any changes or corrections to it. And again, if you want my attention, you want to bring something up, please use that reaction button with a raised hand. It's easier than me having to look around at all the pictures to see who's, raising their hand like this. I don't see any hands raised, so seeing no corrections or changes, I'd like to adopt the agenda for this month. And the next item is to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Now we have it's in a draft format now, but it has been circulated. And so if there is anyone who has changes to the Oh, excuse me, was I muted?
Yes.
Oh, I apologize. I was carrying on for quite some time there. Well, the agenda for this meeting's been approved. There have been no corrections or changes. The minutes for last month's meeting, if you could, if anyone could review last month's minutes, see if there are any changes that need to be made? And if not, we will be adopting the minutes from last month. Now, Diane, did you have a question other than to tell me that I should unmute myself?
No, there, we've got a proposed, I sent out the draft minutes to our mailing list. And after that, we got a correction and an addition to the minutes. And so a proposed change to the minutes that everyone had, draft minutes that everyone has seen. So I would like to share the proposed changes to the minutes with everyone. Yeah, the
Sure.
changes are in red font, and I'll put that up on my screen so that people can take a look at it. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Are you able to share?
I
Oh, okay.
am.
Good.
How about that?
Great.
So here's so the proposed corrections from what everyone was sent are in the red font, are in red font in this document. There's the attendees. We didn't have the meeting recording link in the draft minutes. It's there now. We had a misspelling, doctrine. That correction has been made now. And the other change is more detail here on the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the public trust doctrine. I think this is such an important issue, and that was such an incredible discussion that we had at that meeting. I am proposing that we include all this additional information here because it's really important, and it's solid and it's accurate, and I'd love to see it in the minutes. So I'm proposing that, and so take it to you, David. That's what I'm proposing are these changes to the minutes.
Is there anyone opposed to Diane's correction to the minutes, her addition? I can't see all the, hold on one second.
I'm going to stop sharing so that you can see.
Oh, okay.
better.
Now I can see the participants,
Yeah.
and I don't see anyone opposed to your addition. So I think that's a very helpful addition to the minutes, and I'll adopt it. Are there any other corrections or changes that need to be made? Seeing no hands raised, I will adopt the minutes from our last meeting. Okay, now in terms of guests from off island, let's see. Who do we have here?
I'm not sure we have any guests from off island tonight, David.
Doesn't appear that we do. I don't see it. So
Unless someone would like to speak up.
nope, looks like we've got a nicely attended meeting with no, how would you say, ringers, no ringers from off island. Yeah, so, okay. Well, then next on the agenda would normally be old business, but we have no old business that needs attending to. So that brings us to committee and board updates. And I think I saw Morgan Brown here, who's the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee. Morgan, could you give us an update on the Affordable Housing Committee?
Sure. Thanks, David. We had our last meeting last Monday after a bit of a pause for some travel and scheduling things. We were actually, I thought, kind of fortunate. I think it was sort of the first chance that Jason Johnson, the new executive director for the Vashon household, got to explain himself, introduce himself, and be on the spot for an hour and a half to answer interesting questions and interesting discussion. I understand he was at the last community council meeting for a few minutes, but it was neat to have him for that. I'll quick overview of it. I'm pretty pumped about it. I think we're very fortunate to have a healthy housing nonprofit here on the islands, but I think there's also a lot more that could be done. And I think what the board and what Jason have intended right now is ambitious and exciting to expand their role and expand their leadership. I also met with him the next day to discuss in a little bit more detail how we can collaborate between the Community Council and the Affordable Housing Committee, and am pretty excited about that. So that's sort of it in a summary. There were probably a lot of specifics. You mentioned again the home share program and exploring other ideas on what they can do. Mentioned looking a little bit more at the idea of acquisitions, whether they can acquire properties and expand. You know, they've done some pretty successful developments in the past, but also have some things like Mukai Commons where they've acquired apartment buildings, and that's been a very successful model of other nonprofits. I was pretty familiar with Capitol Hill Housing, where they bought lots of apartment buildings very successfully that were going to be developed and done that. So not that many opportunities here, but wanted to explore that and potentially other public-private collaborations and sort of expand the box of what their role could be and step a little bit more into a leadership role. Having a full-time executive director for Vashon Household, I think will be very exciting. Chris Zoll, I think, has done an admirable job, but it's always been a part-time job for him. And this is really sort of expanding Vashon Household's reach. And Jason has some very interesting experience, and I think I'm very excited about where Vashon Household can go from here, and the work that we might be able to do as part of the council together with them. So that was it. Other than that, there's a few other things going on. I've been reaching out to various people with experience in this, mentioning Capitol Hill Housing. Chuck Weinstock, who ran that for a number of years, lives on the island now. He also worked in housing development for Chase Bank. And so he has a lot of really exciting experience. He reached out to me and we met and talked about different things. And I'm hoping to draw him in on a select basis to get more involved in some of the work we're doing here. So that's a little bit evolving, probably a little bit on how the committee works. Some of you may know, and I know this has been an issue with some of the other committees, on being able to get the critical mass together to actually do some of the work and explore. And I think we had some pretty ambitious ideas on sort of work groups that we wanted to do and things to get moving with the committee. And I think it's been a little bit difficult in terms of having enough and having the right kind of people to do some of that stuff. So I think we're looking at scaling back a little bit and looking at more as a venue for bringing things that are relevant to the council and the community at large, having to do with housing, in front of that committee as a way of vetting it and then bringing to the council, and looking at sort of more things on project type basis and particular issues, and bringing in sort of experts to talk and advertising that. So evolving maybe the role of a committee a little bit more in that way, instead of a whole bunch of work groups that we're going to prepare things that we didn't necessarily have the financial resources or the people resources to do. So anyway, that's some of the thinking. If anybody has any questions, fire away. Otherwise, that's it. Great.
Okay, well, if I could make a comment, I met on June 14th on Tuesday, excuse me, with let's see, Jesse, let's see, who is it? Jesse Reynolds and Lane Zorick from King County, and they're with the, excuse me? Okay, they're with the county staffers who will be working on updating the Vashon community plan, sub-area plan,
yeah,
as part of the 2024 King County planning updates. And Lane was very specific. She said, with regard to Vashon, the two issues that they're primarily looking at are P suffix conditions, which are individual properties, which makes sense. But more important, they're looking at the affordable housing overlay for the town plan of Vashon. And so that is an exciting opportunity for the island in order to get more affordable housing, because there are certain issues we have with zoning in King County that have prevented the opportunity. One is with sewer, and requiring a sewer hookup if you're in the town of Vashon may not work. And so they will be perhaps open to community sewer for community developments, small community developments for affordable housing. And, you know, there are different issues that are going to come up. And if anyone is interested among the people in this meeting in working with the county, I think that would be very helpful. Also, there is a group that's been formed by other similar organizations, community council type groups, and it's called the Joint Rural Area Team for King County. And so they will be working with regard to the planning updates. And we have joined that group in order to give us a little bit more influence in the planning process. And they seem to be quite active and quite responsible. So it's another opportunity for us. But if anyone would like to be involved in the planning process for the 2024 county updates, please let us know. It's important, and it's an opportunity for us to expand our affordable housing base. Okay.
David, quick question on that, because comprehensive plans and our version of that sub-area plans are generally the best opportunity you have to go in and take a look at zoning writ large to make any sort of general changes. So, but we just did that did it in 2016, 2017. I think it was finally blessed, in like 2020. Is this the next plan? Generally, those things are sort of on a 10-year cycle. My understanding is there going to be a sub-area plan done in 2024? Is that what you're saying, or what does that mean?
It's an update to the county comprehensive plan.
Update to the county comprehensive plan. Okay. So
for 2024. So it is an opportunity.
Okay. Yeah.
And particularly because they are focusing on the special district overlay for affordable housing.
Got it.
So
great.
And yeah. So I think we
great,
have a receptive audience.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity, David. I agree, to address zoning. If we get sort of organized on what we would like to suggest and be involved with, then that's a great opportunity for doing that. Absolutely.
Anyone else want to talk about that particular issue? Okay, well then let's move on. Next on the agenda is the Equity Committee, and Kevin Jones of the Equity Committee could give us a brief update.
Yes, thank you, David. And just want to recognize Hunter, Jessica, Yvonne, Deborah, Rachel, Kathleen, and Kyle, who participated in the Equity Committee, are with us tonight. So thank you for helping with the Equity Committee as well as being part of this discussion. I do want to mention the next meeting of the Equity Committee is on July 6th at 6 p.m. The committee has decided to meet on the first and third Wednesdays of every month at 6 p.m. And if you are logged into chat, you can contact me if you're interested in hearing more about the Equity Committee or interested in participating. There's really two areas of focus right now. One is on operating policies and how we make decisions. How do we work together as a team? So we're moving through several operating policy questions. We also have been reaching out to the community of Vashon-Maury Islands through an editorial in the Beachcomber written by Terry Sullivan to implement the elements of the motion that created the Equity Committee, which is basically to engage in meaningful communication with the Vashon-Maury community, to educate the council about equity barriers facing island residents, and to create and submit elements of an equity policy to guide our own actions and policies to remove equity barriers and to advise for bias-free norms in the wider community. And so the committee right now is looking at those words from the motion and looking at exactly what kind of a charter statement to create. We have a second draft, and hopefully at our next meeting, we'll put any additional words into that. I do definitely want to encourage folks, if you want to bring items of interest to the committee's attention, go ahead, please feel free to email me at that email address in the chat. Otherwise, that's pretty much our summary. I'm happy to answer any questions people might have.
Okay, let's see. Don't see any questions out there, so let's move on. The next item I believe I briefly mentioned was that the board had voted to join the Coalition for Unincorporated Community Councils in order to give us more of a say in countywide issues. The next item on the agenda is new business, and it's the Strawberry Festival that's coming up. Yay! And we will have an update from Chamber President Cheryl Lubbert. And also, we want to request volunteers because the Community Council is going to have its own, well, I'd say more than just a booth. It's going to be a strawberry shortcake bonanza in the parking area of Mika's Kitchen, which is just south of town. And having had some of Mika's strawberry shortcake, I have to say it's awesome. So if we want volunteers, but I'll turn the gavel over now to Cheryl Lubbert to talk about the Strawberry Festival.
No problem. And just so everybody's clear, my last name's Lubbert.
Oh,
So
I apologize.
that.
Okay.
Old German name. So I guess I just need some umlauts to get it right. Anyway, it's nice to see everybody here today. I'm the board president for the Vashon-Maury Chamber of Commerce, and I'm happy to tell you about Strawberry Festival this year. We will have festival July 15th through the 17th. It will be a 3-day festival, so we are going back to some of the old ways, but not entirely. We learned a lot in 2021 about really what we wanted to do as an island organization to support the island community. And one of those things that was very important was that the vendors would mostly be Vashon businesses. So it is really about, it's really for Vashon by Vashon type of approach. Again, on July 15th, we will close the streets in downtown from the movie theater, really with a detour at Cove, which is not unusual for anybody who's lived on the island for more than a couple years. And that closure will start at 4 o'clock on July 15th, which is a Friday. We will have the beverage garden open at Vashon Village, along with our music stage. And we will have both an area for families and dancing, and we will also have non-alcoholic cocktails. And then we will also have our normal beverage garden featuring local beverages and some not so local beverages, but in a beverage garden there in front of the stage as usual. Vendors will also be open on Friday evening so that people can kind of get started. One of the things we did last year was we changed our approach, and we really kind of took a mindset of you do you, as long as it's legal, of course. And we really wanted people to do things that they felt were in keeping with their idea of what Strawberry Festival should be. And so we have quite a few markets that are going to be popping up. And in fact, even the farmers market will be open on Saturday. So we really wanted to keep that tradition going so that the farmers market in Vigo would be able to have people there like, we haven't really had that in prior years. So this year we'll have that again. On Saturday, July 16th, we will have a walking parade, not a car parade, but a walking parade at 10 a.m. That'll go through town. And then, of course, vendors and music and all the businesses will be getting things going throughout that day. We have an amazing lineup, and I will say at the Beverage Garden stage, And in fact, we, as is now custom, will have published the quest finish out Saturday night for us. And of course, who doesn't love local talent with just really great energy to finish out on Saturday night. On July 17th, which is Sunday, we will have an antique car parade that's being coordinated by one of the local groups. We're going to have some fun things at the beverage garden stage, and in fact, with a focus on some kids' activities. In fact, we have a reptile man coming. I don't even know what that is, but I'm sure kids will love it. And of course, all of this is outlined on our thisisvashon.com site. And I don't know how many people have been to thisisvashon.com, but we launched This Is Vashon actually last year, early in 2021. And it actually not only highlights local businesses, but it really lays out very specifically when you visit Vashon, where you can go if you live here, where you can go if you want to just play for the day or in general, where you can actually savor great food and beverages, and of course, where you can play. So there's lots of really great information there, and we're very prescriptive in how we put everything together to be aligned around that concept. And we have a whole section there on the Strawberry Festival. So again, if you're interested in more detail or want to contact one of the chairs, it is thisisvashon.com. I will say, and I heard you say it, David, that you were looking for volunteers, but I would actually put a request out to everybody here. The Chamber of Commerce is actually a volunteer-run organization, membership organization. We have 9 board members, all of whom own or run at least one business, in addition to doing all the work for the Chamber. And we desperately need people to help and volunteer for the Strawberry Festival. So while I can appreciate when to serve strawberry shortcake, we need people to help in a much bigger way. So if anybody has time or energy or effort, we would really love the help. We have been without an executive director since 2020. And we would really love to have any volunteer help that we can get, especially around festival, because really we have 9 people who are doing pretty much all the coordination at this juncture, and it's a pretty huge festival. So I guess that's my big plea to say, please volunteer, and we will be putting a sign up out through a couple different channels to get people to help us out. I saw there's some questions. Mika, I think you had one. I saw you.
I was just going to say, I could definitely post on social media that you're also looking for volunteers. I won't hog it all up.
No,
Yeah.
that would be great if you could do that. That would be very helpful. We've been posting, but I know a lot of people are very busy, especially people who are running businesses, because, you know, running a business in this day and age is not easy with, you know, supply constraints, you know, delays, increased labor costs, all those things. And of course, that's what our mission is to really help our local businesses thrive. And we certainly have had lots and lots of hurdles to overcome, especially if you have any help coming from off island. With the ferry uncertainty that we've been challenged with. So if anybody's up for volunteering, we'd love to have you. So we're working with lots of organizations. If you want to be a vendor, please go to thisisvashon.com. You can actually apply to be a vendor there. And we'll, I think it's Michelle Johnson and Sam Wygan are actually coordinating all the vendors for this. So if you're interested in that, that's a great place to go. The other thing I would say is we're doing our unofficial mayor, as we always have, which is a great fundraising opportunity for nonprofits. In fact, every year nonprofits raise tens of thousands of dollars for their organizations as the unofficial mayor. So it would be great if you're interested in that and you're involved with a nonprofit, that might be something that you want to get involved with. And if you are, you can also go on to thisisvashon.com and send your information there to Heather, who is our U.S. Bank branch manager and also a board member, and she will help coordinate your campaign. So there's a lot of the standard activities we're all used to, all happening, and that's pretty much festival for the year, and I think it'll be good. Are there any other questions or comments? I might have missed some.
Ms. Lubbert,
Yes.
where will there be one music venue or will be just one? Because
The only sanctioned one that we are doing, that we are actually supporting for the Vashon-Maury Chamber of Commerce is at Vashon Village.
Okay, so there won't be one at the library?
And no, there will not be one at Over Park.
Okay, and last year it was in the parking lot area by the grocery
IGA.
store, IGA. And that won't be a music venue then?
No, it will not. We're going back to the Vashon Village. We're going
Okay.
back to the way we did it in 2020, in 2019.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Let me see.
Diane?
You're muted.
There, no, I'm not muted. I just
Okay.
want to say how delighted I am that it's so Vashon centric now. I really love that. I also really love the fact that it's a walking parade on Saturday. I think that is so superb. And I know how much incredible work it is to pull off a huge event like this with very busy business owners. And I really appreciate what the sacrifice that everybody's making. As at the last meeting, I'm a member of the chamber, and at the last meeting, the people who are organizing this are meeting every week at what, 7 a.m., Cheryl?
Every Friday.
Every Friday, because that's the only time busy people can meet, is really early in the morning like that. And I just want to just recognize how much work is involved in pulling something like this off. And the chamber doesn't have a lot of funds because of COVID. And so the chamber isn't able to hire an organizer. It's a really tough time. So any support that people can provide for the chamber is very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Beverly Skeffington?
Yeah, just a quick question, Cheryl. Did you say 10 a.m. for the parade?
That is my understanding as of right now, is 10 a.m. for the walking parade on Saturday. And the coordinator for that is Carly Christofferson, our treasurer. And just to give you guys flavor, she has 3 children plus a full-time job. And she is so busy, but she's doing the parade, and I think she's gonna do a great job. And she's our treasurer, so it's all good stuff. But reach out to her, Bev, if you need to get involved in that. Thanks. And if anybody also, I'm just going to put a plug in, David, because you gave me the floor, and I might as well take advantage
Go
of
right
it.
ahead. Go right ahead.
I would say if anybody is interested in joining the board, chamber board, it's a 2-year commitment, and we are looking for people who are willing to spend some time. We are only doing a couple activities during the year, and we're really focusing most of our effort on advertising and support for businesses. So it's not really that many events. It's much more sort of strategic advertising, promotion, education. And certainly if you're interested, reach out to me. The other thing I would let you know is that we actually also just changed our bylaws to allow people who are retired or who have stepped away from their business and are interested in being a part of the board. So we've actually expanded it beyond just current business owners and or leaders who work and live on Vashon. So just wanted to put that out there as something else, because we certainly would love to have more hands to help do these things for the community.
Good idea to expand to retired people.
Yes.
And question about the parade, is the world-renowned Thriftway drill team going to be there?
I sure hope so. I mean, they are always like the best trained group of shopping cart people I've ever seen. So it's really nice to have.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if they've been practicing or not, but I think they probably will be. I can answer the question about the fireworks if you want me to, Diane.
Sure.
David. Yeah, so on fireworks, the chamber is not involved in the fireworks. Just want to make sure we're clear on who's doing what. But there are going to be fireworks in Quartermaster Harbor that are going to be funded by a private source. It will be the first year that people will be restricted on using regular fireworks unless they have a permit. So that will be definitely a change down in Quartermaster Harbor for those of us who've lived here for a while. It might be a little bit quieter. I don't know. We'll see. And yes, John, about the tractors, I just saw Dwayne Dietz, and we are trying to get the tractors into the parade or at least someplace so that people can see them. Don't have more details right now, but Dwayne cornered me in Thriftway and made sure it was a point. So as is normal with Vashon business, it's always at the grocery store, right? So,
Melvin Mackey has a question.
okay.
For the walking parade,
Mhm.
is there an application for that, or do people just show up?
Go to thisisvashon.com, and I think the information for the parade is on there, but you can also email me if you want to, and I'll put my email in the chat. It's boardpresident@vashonchamber.com, and we can get you that information, okay? And I'll put them both in there for you. I'll put my personal in, and I will also put in my chamber one for you, okay? I'm sorry I don't know all the details, because actually I have a conflicting meeting at 7:30 every Friday morning. So I only get 30 minutes of the committee meeting. And so, okay, so there you go. It'll be a fun, it'll be nice. Strawberry Festival work out, and we just love that the community loves it, and we'll get it done. Everybody just has to be flexible, because we really don't have that many hands to get it done. There you go. Cool.
Okay.
All right, David, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for doing the work you're doing for the chamber.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, the next item on our agenda is a community discussion on racially motivated burglary. Excuse me? Diane, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes. We haven't gotten a chance to talk at length about our involvement in the Strawberry Festival.
Oh, well, then let's go back. I apologize.
Yeah,
We moved too quickly there.
just a little.
Do you want to start this discussion, or should
I would
Mika?
like Mika to start this.
Okay.
discussion. She's the
Okay, great.
key person.
All right, Mika.
I would say I'm not the key person. I would say it's Team Strawberry. We have a solid team, and we're having a lot of fun with the planning. So we just met a few days ago, and we are fine-tuning all the details of the Strawberry Festival. We know that we're going to have the strawberry shortcake. We know that we are going to have kids' activities. We are going to have, the coffee cups for sale, strawberries by the pallet. There's going to be a lot of strawberries, bubbles for kids, and a lot of activities. We're in the process now of sending out, Diane has put together a beautiful calendar so people can sign up, and the chamber might consider doing that as well. There's a free, maybe she can talk to Diane, there's a free, like a calendar, and we're going to be sending out emails and posting this calendar on social media. And through this calendar is a way for us to get people to sign up. And this is not the board people who will be required to, kind of work the booth with the brochures, because we are going to need the board people to give up some time. And it's not like, can you work? It's like, we need you to see what slots you can fill in, because everybody, if possible, unless death has occurred, really needs to be there. and so, I'm not bending arms. Anyways, so we're looking at two sectors of volunteers. One, which is the board, which is behind the brochures, and we're really trying to get people active in the community and the community council. And the second, which are volunteers to help with the activities such as serving the strawberry shortcake, setting up the tents, breaking down the tents,
Taking
the
in
bubbles.
money.
Yes, yeah. And so, Diane, fill in. I didn't expect to speak on that today. I thought, I don't know.
Yeah, so we're close to sending out a link for, there's two key things that I've been working on for this. One is a whole calendar of all the different slots that need to be filled for people who are going to help with the strawberry shortcake, and which is a fundraiser for the community council. And then also we also have a list on a Google Doc list of things that people could donate that to help us pull this thing off. So watch for that in an email that will be coming out shortly. As soon as it's ready to go, I'll be sending that out. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really great. And I'm just so delighted that Mika on our board is offering her business space and offering the strawberry shortcake. So much volunteer and so much donation from Mika. It's just fabulous. Okay, so I wanted to be prepared. You're going to be asked to sign on for a couple of shifts. Okay.
Okay. Do we have any questions about the Community Council Strawberry Shortcake booth? Again, I'm looking forward to it. So great. And this and oh, there's their banner.
Banner has arrived.
Nice. So this kind of segues well into our next discussion, which is the community discussion on racially motivated burglary and vandalism. And we had a horrific incident that occurred several weeks ago, actually a couple of months ago, I believe now, at Mika's Kitchen, where an individual broke in to her business and just wreaked havoc in the worst possible way he could and caused a lot of damage. And it wasn't a robbery. It was strictly causing destruction. So Mika, if you could talk more about this.
Sure. Am I on mute?
No, you're good. We can hear you.
Okay. So to begin, I would, first of all, like to state that, the burglaries and crimes that occur nowadays aren't only racial, because there's so many other spectrums. You have people who are transgender, people who are gay, so many other things that people are attacked for. So I think that to say just race involved, their hate of anything that isn't what one person considers, of anything that's different, I should say. So I would like to first of all begin by talking about my ethnicity. I am definitely a Heinz 57. My mother was born in Mexico City. My grandmother was born in Chiapas. My grandfather was born in Cuba. He would have been born in Bilbao, Spain, but he was born in an era where genocide was occurring with the Basque people from the Spaniards. And so many Basques were fleeing, and he ended up being born and raised in Cuba. So I grew up in a very diverse community, in a very diverse thing. And I did, I have experienced racism, but I think that the racism that we have, in the South is so different than what we have, here. And I think many of us, and I think I could probably get everybody to agree on the fact that when Trump took office, and I'm not saying pro-Trump or bad Trump, but when he took office, the amount of cans that came out of the worms that came out of the can, and for us to see the amount of racism that is still in this country, I found to be quite shocking. And when my business was first burglarized, I did not think race. I thought, I was in shock and stunned. And as Dexter came over and spoke to me, he goes, he said, we got the person on tape, and he knew who it was. And he said, he's very racist. And I still didn't take that word for it, because for me to say that something is a hate crime, I think we have to be very careful. We can assume that this person may not like certain ethnicities, or may not like homosexuals, or may not like anything that's different to them. But that doesn't, but there could be many other scenarios. And I'm sure, as an attorney, you should never assume, so we know that it's possible, and it is finally being investigated. It took 2 months before an investigator was actually assigned to the case, but now we have 2 investigators looking into the case. And some of the evidence that we did provide was this person's, I'll use the name Quinn Bergen, his Facebook page. And he has a lot of pro-Nazi type, pro-Nazi, white power and hate against anything different. And so now we're at the point to, to figure out if this was a hate crime. And some of the other vandalisms, like, the art that was for the people who were shot by police officers, those were all vandalized. So we have a small problem, I think, and I do say small in that it's a few people, because the majority of the people on Vashon, I do not believe to be, they're the most open-minded, the most supportive, the most loving people. And they were, my parking lot, when the burglary occurred by 7:30, it occurred at 4:30 in the morning. By 7:30 a.m., my parking lot was full. And I had so much community support that the love definitely overpowered the hate. But I do think that we need to nip this, nip hate in the bud. And it goes so much further than hate. It goes into mental health. So many of the people that are committing these crimes of hate have mental health problems, and they are slipping through the mental health system. So, it's a lot of mental illness. I mean, there is absolute hate, absolutely. You have Proud Boys rising up. You have a lot of groups that feel insecure and threatened by diversity. And I think for, and I'm only speaking on my opinion, growing up, I have experienced racism. And as an adult, I experienced racism, but I'm not a person. To me, racism equals ignorance. If you are racist, I feel sorry for you. You poor thing that you can't love. You're missing out on so much in life because there's so many good people. And if you can only see color, I feel bad. And we do have people who are ignorant, and we can't change that. But what we can do is start making a difference at a very young age. Some of the schools who have had speakers, like from the Holocaust or from the Japanese internment camps or from many other things, starting to teach at a young age and lead by example. Leading by example is huge. At the Japanese internment, I was at the, Juneteenth, I helped cater some of the food for there. And I had the honor and privilege of listening to, I don't remember his name, but one of the persons who was in the internment camp and is part of the family of the strawberry, of the Mukai farm. And one thing he did say is that our government has taught different ethnicities to be racist against each other. Whereas there was a point in time where Japanese were looked down upon, and there are a lot of Asian hate crimes still occurring. There's Black hate crimes, there's Asian hate crimes, there's hate crimes against gays, there's hate crimes in every scenario if you're fat, And he said that the internment camp that he was in, they had to work in Arizona, and they actually it was Native American. They were slaves to Native Americans because it was political. The Native Americans didn't want to get involved because they were finally on good terms with the United States. They wanted to leave it alone. And guess what? Now, if they use the Japanese were able to work at their camps in Arizona in over 100-degree temperature, and these were ethnicity against ethnicity, people who have already struggled. And then at some point, the Japanese become, well, yeah, you're brown, but you're smart, you're good at math, so you're not as bad as the Blacks, or you're not as bad as the Mexicans. And this is the scenario that has been taught through the government. And so within the ethnicities, you have a lot of racism within itself, division. You have, I married somebody who was Black. My grandmother was Mexican. When she came to this country, there were signs that said, no Mexicans allowed, no Mexicans allowed, no natives allowed, no this allowed. There was a lot of that. But she was also told, well, at least you're not Black. Be fearful of the Black people. And my grandmother, when I was 7 years old, here was my introduction to racism. And I thank God that I had the gift, or I was given the gift to see the difference, because my grandmother was prejudiced against Black people. And I was 7 years old, and I remember seeing her watch a beauty pageant, a Miss America pageant. And when there was one of the first Black ladies on Miss America, my grandmother went over there and turned off the TV and said she ruined it. And I remember being 7 and thinking, wow, I thought she was beautiful, you know? And, you know, my mom ended up dating somebody and having my youngest brother from somebody who was Black. And when my parents divorced, my mom, I'm just might as well say it, my dad got custody. My mom took us to Mexico illegally. We were fugitives and, kidnapped, I guess would be the proper term. And when we came back, there was police and everything looking for us, but the person who turned us over to my dad was my mom's own mom, and it was because she was dating somebody Black. And I know that for my mom, it was devastating. And my grandmother and I, as much as she might have been prejudiced in certain things, that's what she was taught, she was also the person I was closest to. She was my everything. And when I married somebody Black, she did not come to my wedding. But I also got the reverse discrimination. I got the reverse from my husband's family. I was discriminated by them because I also wasn't Black. So at my wedding, my sister-in-laws took off their dresses before the photos were taken, because they didn't want to be in my wedding, and they let me know it. My mother-in-law would tell people I was Norwegian because she was ashamed of the fact that I was part Mexican. So we have a history, and this goes beyond, this is, Mexicans not liking South Americans. Don't call everybody thinks that everyone who speaks Spanish here is Mexican, and half the time they're from other parts of South America. And tell a Mexican that can't even Dominican. Oh my God, I'm not Dominican. I'm better than Dominican, and it goes on and on and on. So humanity is racism. Humanity is racism, and it goes across the world, maybe not so much Black and white, but it's a problem. And I'm thankful that as human beings, we're evolving away from that and realizing that we all have the same organs. We have the same limbs. We're people. We are part of the human race. And how do we stop this? Number one, we continue to divide each other. We continue to divide. We can't just say, I'm a person. We continue to divide and make ethnicity if there's an Olympian and they win and they happen to be Black, and it's in a sport that is not predominantly, a track and field, for instance, this person has won the Olympics and they're Black. Oh my. But if they were in France and it was a Black ice skater, they would say a French person has won the Olympics. They don't bring color into it. So, we can't change the world, but we can change ourselves, and we can become aware. And everybody's guilty of something. I mean, when I'm guilty of something. I had a best friend in high school, and I used to spend the night at her house. And then I found out she had a crush on me. Back then, gay wasn't popular, and I stopped talking to her. I wanted nothing to do with her because I was fearful. Oh my God, she's gay. And as an adult, I found her and I apologized to her. We're not perfect, we're humans. We've all made mistakes. Or who hasn't gone to Chinatown and you're like, oh Lord, I'm not driving there because Chinese can't drive. We tend to do these kind of things, because we're taught this and this and this and this. So I know we need to turn it over, but we have a problem. Our country was built on racism. Our country the people who came here came and didn't respect the people that were here. They took, and it was take and enslave. And, you know, gosh, when I was 10, I found out that California, Arizona, parts of, you know, these belong to Mexico. I was furious. I wrote a letter to the president that my grandmother confiscated because she thought we would get arrested. You know, I wanted to get these countries back, but our country was founded on racism. So and it's a new country compared to other countries. We are a new country, but we have one thing that all the other countries don't have. Everybody who has come here from a different country. And everybody who has come here to make a better life, a better opportunity. And so where do we start? You know, we can start with Vashon. We can start with who we are right here, this little group. And if we start killing the cancer cells and growing the kindness cells, you know, we're going to continue to make progress. That's it for me.
Well, thank you, Mika. And I want to add that not everyone in this country came here. There were the Native Americans who were here.
They're very true. Yes.
And
yes.
And the Puritans did their very best to exterminate them.
Yes.
You know, and so, you know,
yes.
And then I was happy not to hear you mention, other than the reference to the Holocaust, about discrimination against the Jews, because, you know, these are Nazi groups. And Jews have done well in this country, but now, you know, Jews have to fear these Nazi groups because they're at the top of the hate list. And then the Jews in Israel are not doing so well for themselves when they're discriminating against the Palestinians. So it's a worldwide thing. And, you know, I think
Muslims and churches getting shot. I mean, it's sad.
Right. And then you look at countries, you said the French, think of just the French, but they are very racist when it comes to, you know, immigration. And these are countries that were colonists. And then their colonial, you know, workings come back to haunt them because they allow these immigrants to come to the country. And then there's a lot of hatred with regard to that. So it's a worldwide problem and it needs to be, you know, fixed.
May I add one more thing? I would like to just say also, growing up, I went to a lot of schools. I was not a military kid, but I was a kid who bounced around a lot. So I used to live on the border of Compton, you know, so I went to schools that were almost all Black. I went to schools that were almost all Mexican. I went to a school where a teacher told me at recess with my friends, we couldn't talk Spanish because he felt threatened by that. that was here. And I went to so many schools, but what I found in all the different schools that I went to inner city school, downtown LA, school in Long Beach, you know, I went to 32 schools from elementary school before I graduated high school. And one thing that I learned was at every single one of those schools, it didn't matter whether they were an all Black school or an all Mexican school or an all whatever school. The one thing that I noticed with my eyes was that you had the same in every ethnicity. You had your jocks, you had your cheerleaders, you had your geeks, you had your, you know, your athletes, you had your drug addicts, you had your gangsters. In every single ethnicity, in every single school. Some people, oh, I'm going to send my kid to this school because it's safer. You mean it's whiter? Well, guess what? Those are the schools that they don't have marijuana, they have cocaine, you know? So, you know, there's the same problems at every school and every ethnicity. Just some of the problems get more expensive depending on the money you have. And I'm thankful that I saw that and that I learned that at a very young age. And I'm, you know, I used to see people, I still see people as people. You know, I don't see a person. For me, the color just doesn't matter. You're a person and everybody's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mika.
Yeah.
And Kevin Jones of our diversity committee was going to speak to this issue as well. Kevin?
Thank you, David, and thanks for the invitation to speak. Thank you, particularly, Micah, for sharing your history, your lived experience, and bringing awareness, to our community about how to perceive the things that happen around us, and how to put those into a perspective that we might not otherwise see if we were left to our own devices. I also want to thank the board for including this agenda item. We had this discussion at the last committee meeting. We had this discussion again at the last board meeting. I think it's just very important that we have this opportunity in our community to set expectations for how we work together, how we treat each other, how we include each other, and how we respect each other. And I think that's just really vitally important. This conversation has been, I think, motivated by several incidents that many of us, if not all of us, are aware of. The racial graffiti, racist graffiti in town last year, which so many people reacted to and signed their names to a letter in the Beachcomber, and was one of the motivations to create the Equity Committee, which we now have. And of course, if you're interested in hearing more or being involved, I did put my email in the chat earlier. Also, the defacing of images of Black Lives Lost at Herb and Bloom, VCA, other businesses. So we know that this isn't just a one-time incident. We know that we have a history, a recent history at least. And I think it's for us to decide what kind of conversations we have to decide what the trend is. Mika, you mentioned the trend over the last 5 or 6 years was for more hate crimes. And it's, I think, for me personally, cause for concern and also cause for action. And so I think it's helpful for us to understand a couple of things. I know David Vicky included me on an email that she sent to you that had some statute about what a hate crime is. And many of us may not be aware, but simply things like causing physical damage to or destruction of the property of the victim or another person is a hate crime. Threatening a specific person or group of persons and placing that person or members of that group of persons in reasonable fear of harm to person or property. These are hate crimes, and they're underreported, maybe because we don't really understand where those lines are and how to see when a line has been crossed. And it's even harder to know what to do when you see that, and whether you get involved yourself in that moment, or whether you say, we need to raise awareness of this. We need to talk to others, or we need to maybe make sure that our law enforcement community is aware of the nature and the scope of the issue that we have currently, whatever it is, on Vashon-Maury Islands. And so I would say there are many anti-racism resources that are available. And if people want to be involved with that, if people want to learn more about that, don't hesitate to contact me. I'll do my best to put you in touch with some resources. And the notion that anti-racism is doing just as I mentioned, taking that step, taking that action, making sure to, when you see something that is a hate crime, to, if you're in a safe environment, if you can express yourself, to do so and raise that awareness, because through that collaboration, I believe our community will be stronger and set expectations for what we would like and how we want to live in community with each other. So David, thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts.
Sure. And thank you for speaking. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? Yes, Terry Sullivan. You're muted, Terry.
There.
Okay.
I wanted to mention some of this. It's almost kind of like a naive racism that I experienced. But my neighbor, Peggy Anderson, is a very nice old lady, lived next door. I used to go visit her all the time. And at one point when she had chickens, and, we have chickens. So, we had a lot of in common that way. She had a nice garden. One time she was about 90 or so, and she had her eggs on the front porch, and she said, I have the Spanish boys across the street come over and clean them for me, and there's a Spanish family, it's a Mexican family lived across the street. And I said, Peggy, those kids aren't Spanish, they're Mexicans. And she said, oh, well, that may be, but I wouldn't say that to their face. You know, I said, Peggy, they're very, you know, I'm sure they're proud to be Mexicans and they don't mind being called Mexicans, you know, and I mean, so she was just very sweet and just thought she was being, you know, polite. So that there's that side of it too, you know. It isn't hate, it's just ignorance.
Nodi? I see a hand raised.
Hi. Yeah,
Okay.
this is Nodi Sullivan. I had an experience on the island that illustrates how far back this goes. About 5 or 6 years ago, I had one of the graduate interns from Chautauqua. They typically recruit folks from Spanish-speaking countries to support their Spanish language program. And I had a lovely young woman who was about 26 from northern Spain that came and lived with me for a year, and she was delightful. Her coloring was sort of typical for her region of Spain. She was very, very fair and had very, very dark hair and dark eyes. So I think to a stranger, she might have appeared Middle Eastern. And she borrowed my truck. She was tutoring somebody in Spanish down near Tramp Harbor. She borrowed my truck one night and was walking back after her tutelage and was stopped by 2 King County sheriffs. And they demanded to know who she was, what was she doing here? And she said, well, I'm going back to my car. And, well, why are you here? And she said, I'm tutoring. And they said, no, why are you here on this island? So she explained what was going on with them. And they said, do you know who we are? And she said, yeah, you're the police. She said, my father's a policeman in northern Spain. And they said, oh, you think that entitles you to some special privileges here? And the whole thing just escalated, and she didn't understand what was happening. So when she came back to the house, she told me, was kind of laughing about it. And I explained that she'd been profiled, and that as a white woman with light hair and blue eyes, and they asked to see identification. I said, I have never been stopped on the street and asked for identification, and explained to her what was going on. And I said, do you want to pursue this? She said, yeah, what they did wasn't right. So I contacted the agency that sponsors these folks, and they said it's up to the principal. So I contacted the principal. I asked her to explain to the principal the following day what had happened. And when I spoke with the principal, she said, oh, I talked with her about it, but she doesn't want to pursue it. So when she came home that day, I said to her, here's the situation. And I said, we can try to pursue this or not. Either way, it's up to you. She said, well, I think if they did something wrong, we should pursue this. I'm sorry, my phone's going off. So as it turns out, I was, hold on, let me grab this. As it turns out, I was at that point working 3 different jobs and commuting off island every day, and we never got the chance to take it to the sheriff's office. But this is just one example of just how systemic this is and how far this goes back. I was very upset with the principal for not wanting to take this any further.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else want to contribute? Well, thank you all for bringing this up. It's something we have to be aware of in our community. We try to think of ourselves as being more liberal than any place in the universe, or progressive, whichever the term is now. But everyone has some form of racism, pretty much, and so you have to really look inside and educate yourself. So anyway, let's do our best. And I'd like to move to the next item on our agenda, which is Zero Waste Vashon. So Nancy O'Connor, if you could, oh, there you are. Hi, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Okay.
There you go.
Unmuted.
You are.
So I will just start. Hi, I'm Nancy O'Connor, and I am president of Zero Waste Vashon. Many of you know who we are. Diane had asked me to give an update. We recently had a community meeting on the community compost facility project. And Diane contacted me to give an update on that and also on the styrofoam recycling program, which has become hugely popular. And so I do have some slides and I'm going to do my best. So can I share a screen? Is that allowed?
I believe you can.
All right. I am not super savvy with this. So let me see.
I got you covered, Nancy. I've got the PowerPoint presentation up on my computer in case you can't do it.
Okay.
So
Well,
we're covered.
had it a second ago. Oh, there we go. Can everyone see that? A big Zero Waste Vashon. Can you still hear me?
Can hear you, but you can't see anything on your screen.
Ah, boy. All right. Let me try this again, because that is all that is on my screen is that. Diane, should we just transition to you to make this more efficient?
Certainly, and you just tell me when to move on to the next slide.
All right, hang on. Now I got to get back to Zoom. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what that was about. So if you would be willing to share your screen. Oh, so now I had it in presenter mode, which then you're
Okay.
not looking at all this other stuff. Can you do that, Diane?
I think I can.
Presenter
Presenter view. Let's see what we can do here.
Yeah, that might be a little less cluttered.
I don't know how to do this. No, I don't want to turn on subtitles. Okay, well,
Probably not. Well, that doesn't look better.
okay. All right, PowerPoint. Go away. Just let us do this. Okay. And so is this the right view or you want a different view?
Well, I would prefer a view that just has the slide filling up the screen. I
Okay.
think it would be a lot less distracting for folks, but if
Okay. We're going to try something else here.
okay.
View.
You've done these in the past, I'm sure.
We'll
Yeah,
just do
slideshow might be
slideshow.
best.
We'll
Yeah.
just do slideshow. How's that?
All right.
Okay.
All right, that looks great.
Is that okay?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I apologize for that. All right, next slide, please. So Zero Waste Vashon, we are an all volunteer organization. We were started in 2014, and our mission is that we work to help Vashon to become a waste to resource community. And we do that by helping islanders to rethink, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Next slide, please. So people will say, well, what is zero waste? And it's the idea that what we think of as waste is actually a resource that can go back into making new products. We start the zero waste concept by trying to create less waste in the first place. And then we want to use as much as we can of our waste to create useful products. So next slide, please. Another term for zero waste is the circular economy. So our traditional economy that we have pretty much all around the world is a linear economy where we extract resources, we use them sometimes really quickly, and then we throw them away. In a circular economy, we extract the resources, we use them, and then we reuse them or recycle them or reprocess them. and put them back into production to create something new. Next slide, please. So the benefit for that, you say, well, what's the problem? Why not just put everything in the trash? There are greenhouse gas benefits to reusing our resources. As you can see in the top bullet, 47% of greenhouse gas emissions are from the production, sale, and disposal of household goods and services. So it's not just the energy in the buildings, and we hear a lot about that, the fuel usage, electricity. It's also the stuff that we use every day that contributes a huge amount to our greenhouse gas emissions. Also, every time we go after new resources, it contributes to deforestation, loss of habitat for species, displacement of native populations. There are some really big impacts in the extractive industries. We use a lot of toxins and create pollution every time we produce something new. And as we all know by now, the microplastics that are ending up out in our oceans from all of the plastics out there, that's another huge impact. Next slide, please. So to bring it back to Vashon, this is a snapshot of what the waste on Vashon is made up of. And some of those categories may not be real familiar, but what I'd like to focus on today is the food, the wood and yard waste, and the other organics. And those are kind of in the bottom left quadrant of that circle. Those comprise a huge amount of our waste stream here on Vashon. So that has been one of our focuses with Zero Waste Vashon. Our other big focus is plastic. It's not as large a percentage of the waste stream, but it has more significant environmental impacts. So those have been our two areas of focus. Next slide, please. So I've got those listed there: community compost, plastics. We also work on hard to recycle and reduce or reuse. I won't get into those because we're going to focus on the top two tonight. Next slide, please. So compost, why does compost matter? Well, as we just saw in the slide, yard and food waste alone make up over 30% of our waste stream. The other organics, that other piece of the pie, those are things like soiled paper towels, tissues, food soiled paper. Those are the other organics. So that's yet more that could be composted. When this stuff goes to the landfill, it rots and it creates methane. And that is a very powerful greenhouse gas. So we really want to avoid sending this to the landfill. And a huge part of why is because if we separate it and compost it, we create something really valuable. A properly managed compost pile does not create methane. It's nature's way of balancing it out and decomposing it without creating that gas. Compost also builds healthy soils, and healthy soils are carbon sinks, and healthy soils grow plants that also absorb carbon from the atmosphere. So compost is a big win-win from the greenhouse gas perspective. Next slide, please. So a community compost facility. When we look at trying to be a more circular economy or trying to be a waste to resource island, one of our biggest waste products that we can actually easily process right here on the island and then use the new product right here on the island is compost. So we can have a huge impact on our waste stream and our greenhouse gas footprint if we compost more. Right now, the transfer station has a yard waste collection, and they will also collect food waste. And that's a good thing. They do ship it 28 miles to be composted at Cedar Grove. And then at Cedar Grove, they create compost and they put it in bags and they ship it back to the island in plastic bags, and we all buy it to put it in our gardens. Instead of that, we could create our own compost here on the island that would not have to be shipped, that could just go a few miles to compost facility and then go a few miles back again to your garden or your farm. So that's what we have been working really hard to try to make that happen. We've been working with King County for 4 years now, very actively on this project. Next slide, please. So we have got some milestones. And in fact, I revised these slides because I was originally going to present in December. And I'm pleased to say that some of these things went from things that were going to happen to things that actually have happened. So that's kind of, we're pretty excited about that at Zero Waste Vashon. So the county, they contracted with a consultant and conducted a compost facility feasibility study. That was completed in December of 2021. The full text of the study is available on a web page that the county has created for this project, and I will give you that address at the end. That study concluded that it made sense both economically and in terms of greenhouse gas emissions for compost to be composted on Vashon. So that was a win-win. You know, the county would save money if they actually created a community-sized facility here and made compost. They also conducted a study just at the beginning of this year and to gauge the community's interest in this. And the response rate was huge. It was 25%, nearly 25% of Vashon households responded. Just to give you a marker, 5% is considered a huge response rate for a survey, and 4% is statistically valid. So this was 25% of everyone responded, which was wonderful. Of the respondents, 96% were in favor of a community compost facility, which was really, really exciting. We were thrilled to hear that. 58% said that they would definitely or probably sign up for curbside organic collection, which is the opportunity to have what's called either a green bin or a third bin, which 99% of King County has that service, that they can have curbside. It's only us and the small town of Skykomish, population 450. Those are the only two places in the county that do not have that possibility. So it was good for us to let the county know that we are interested in these things. So thank you for all of you who responded. That was great to hear from our community. Next slide, please. So the county held a public meeting via Zoom on June 7th. Zero Waste Vashon helped to promote it. We put all the ads out in the beachcomber and the signboards, and we really wanted to have as many people come as possible. We had about 50 people come, which is a pretty good turnout. The county just went over basically what I'm doing now, except they went over more details about the study. And I would encourage you to look the study up, like I said, at the website if you want more details. But the next steps coming out of this meeting are that the county has assigned their own engineers who deal with landfills to see if the transfer station landfill property will be a viable place for a community compost facility. It makes a lot of sense in terms of the fact that waste is already being handled there, there are scales, there is the equipment, there are employees. So that seems to be the most logical place. They have also rehired those same consultants who did the study to determine the specific requirements of a location, what requirements would need to be met. They are also using their own staff and these consultants to delve into the steps required to actually offer us the same curbside organics collection that the rest of the county has access to. So we're excited that there is forward movement. It's been a lot of sometimes incredibly slow and hard work to get to this point, but we're really excited. Next slide, please. So moving on to plastics, this is much quicker. Plastics are a big problem. The fact that many people don't know is that 8 to 10% of the world's total oil supply goes into making plastics, which is really pretty shocking. So when we don't recycle plastics, they drill more oil to make more plastics. Oil spills are devastating on marine life. Plastics pollution is devastating on marine life. They take hundreds of years to degrade. So we have teamed up. Next slide, please.
Great.
We have teamed up with Nadine Edelstein, and she started the styrofoam recycling events. I'm thinking it's almost 3 years ago now, in town, in a very small location, just of her own initiative. It just bothered her to see all that styrofoam going into the trash. And she found a source for it to be recycled back into styrofoam in Kent. And she set up these events, and they have grown exponentially. There is huge enthusiasm for this on the island. Zero Waste Vashon, we are a bigger organization, and we had some resources that would be helpful to Nadine in keeping these going and helping to expand them. So her program is now a part of Zero Waste Vashon, and she still runs it and works incredibly hard at it. So there's, at this point, every month there's 35 volunteers. There are well over 400 households a month. We collect the styrofoam, plastic film. And one neat thing about this program is they use the food bank trucks. The volunteers use the food bank trucks to transport the plastic off the island to Kent, where they turn around and pick up the food bank supplies in Kent and bring the truck back to the island. So we are not wasting the carbon footprint in bringing these supplies, taking them to a place that they can be recycled. The program is expanded now. We take other types of plastic, and we have island businesses that are starting to participate in this. We would love to see the county take this on, because it is a huge, huge, huge effort. We're actively pursuing the county on that. And as you saw with the compost facility, things tend to move fairly slowly, but we continue to hope to achieve that. Next slide, please. So I would be remiss, we are a volunteer organization. The other organizations have put out pitches. We're thrilled that we have a lot of great people that help us out on our projects. If you have any interest in zero waste, we'd love to have you join us. We have several ways you can do it, just from a few hours to being all the way up on the board. So please reach out to us. We'd love to have new participants. Last slide, please. So our website is there at zerowastevashon.org. You can also email us with questions. We try to respond to every question individually that we get. That's info@zerowastevashon.org. And then my personal email is nancy.o'connor@zerowastevashon.org. Now, I said I was going to give you the link to the King County webpage.
It's already in the chat.
I knew you would do that, Steve. Thank you so much. I have never been capable of speaking and reading chats at the same time. So are there questions there that I should answer tonight? Or if anybody has any questions, I don't know if any came across. Let's see. All right, let me get my readers on. All right, so how much did the compost facility feasibility study cost? That was $50,000 that the county appropriated for that study. Do you have any idea how many Vashon households compost on site already? We do not have specific numbers about that. We know it's a lot of folks. You know, in the survey, I might have to get back to you on that because I might be able to get some more specific numbers from the survey that the county did. They did ask how people currently dispose of their food waste. So I could get back to you on that if you want to leave your email in the chat. I'd be happy to do that. Steve added the project page, and you know, I think I was addressing Armin's questions. Armin, on that project page, there are also the full results of the survey. So you may find the answer to your question there quicker than I would, because that's what I would be doing, is going to look at the survey as well. Are there any other questions?
And Nancy, there's one other question from
Okay.
Deborah Gusson. What are thoughts regarding Ridwell as another option?
Well, Ridwell is I should expand on that for folks that don't know. Ridwell is a subscription service that you can pay, and I believe it's about $17 a month, and they collect hard to recycle items, and they have a fairly specific list of items that they will take. And you have a little box, and it sits outside your house, and you can put those items in the box, and then they come and pick it up. It's not just a Vashon service. They have it in many communities in the state. I do believe it's a Washington service. They will have, in addition to their standard items, they will have specific items, like a special item every month that they say, oh, you know, those electrical cords, or I don't know because I don't subscribe, but I have friends who use it, that they find it very useful. I know for their styrofoam collection, they do charge extra for that, because they'll give you a big bag and you put it all in a big bag because it's too bulky, I assume, for your little box. So I have looked on their website. It's pretty neat. They try to find local uses for things. Like they will try to find a homeless shelter that can use certain of the things that they have for their special collection, or they will find other charities that use certain items in craft projects. And so I think they're a pretty good organization. Like I said, I do not subscribe. Most of the things that they collect, you could find a place to properly recycle them on the island. If you go to our web page, we have a what do I do with button that will tell you places that you can recycle unusual things: batteries, light bulbs, pet food bags, you know, all those, many of those strange things that, you know, we all would like to go to a good home, but they don't go in our bin and they don't go to the transfer station. So there's a lot of good resources on our webpage under that button. So anyways, that was a long answer on Ridwell, but I had done a fair bit of research on it. So I just wanted to share what I know. It may be a good option for some folks. Any other questions? Okay, I didn't see that last one in the chat, Steve. So for some reason, I'm not.
I'll
Wait,
happily move this.
oh, sorry, here they go. Okay, let's see. Oh, what happens to the mixed plastics? All right, this one is a little bit tricky. The mixed plastics go to an organization called DTG. DTG also does construction waste recycling. They have a large facility in Seattle where they find recycling for everything that they can. They have sort of a MRF, which is a materials processing, or not a processing, or materials recycling facility. So they will take those plastics, they dump them all in a big floor, they go through them and find recycling homes for as much as possible. Items that they cannot recycle, they shred into it's called synfuel, I believe. And it's basically a shredded product that becomes fuel for a cement kiln. And the cement kiln uses that instead of natural gas to help fuel their process. The cement kiln has very strict emission standards on it. The residue that is left, which is sometimes a concern when products are combusted, the residue that's left goes into the cement, and it is called a co-combustion process. It's not without its concerns. But it is not a straight incineration process either. And it does replace the use of a virgin fuel product. So, and you can learn more about that. Oh, I'm trying to think of the best place to get that. Steve, do you know, do we have that out on the website under?
Oh, we don't have the details behind DTG, but the DTG does have some really good YouTubes that they offer to.
Just on there, if you Google DTG, so it's capital letters, DTG. And they talk about how they make their product and where it goes. And so that might be a better place to learn more about that.
And Nancy, Kevin has a question about the county taking over the styrofoam program. What would that look like, and what conversation is?
What would that look like? Oh, I can read it now. Thanks, Steve. Okay, so I would have to say we don't know exactly what that would look like. The county does collect at the Bow Lake Transfer Station. They collect styrofoam there. So they have basically a dumpster where you can come and bring your styrofoam. It has to be manned because, as you've seen, if you've been at our recycling events, it's pretty confusing for the public to know exactly what can be brought in and what goes where. But presumably it would be a manned dumpster where the styrofoam products would go. The other plastic, there has been some talk of DTG having a dumpster there for construction waste, because right now we do not have construction waste recycling at our transfer station. And so a lot of it just goes into the landfill that wouldn't need to. And a lot of the other transfer stations in the county do have construction debris recycling. So if DTG were to have a dumpster for construction waste, it might also mean that they would have a location for the plastics recycling to go. But this is all kind of just very loose speculation at this point. Most of the conversations have been through Nadine, so I do not have the specifics. Steve is a little more conversant because he's the chair of our plastics committee. Would you like to expand?
Sure. Yeah, we've been talking to Kerwin Pyle, who runs the recycling transfer station department for King County transfer stations. And the concept is to make this part of the improvement that King County is going to do for the transfer station eventually. That they've got the plan to make a loop instead of the drive in and back out technique that we all use now at the transfer station. And so they want to modify the flow. And the idea would be to have more bins where you could place. So they are looking at it. It's gone through a cost benefit analysis. One of the challenges is it's a union shop, so it requires extra staff, and they're going through that whole process. They're having a real hard time finding staff in this day of COVID. So there are challenges out there, but we're working on it. Kerwin's been working on it for about the last 8 months. So it's really gone through a number of stages in their process.
Okay, I just got a question. It says that DTG YouTube is a rap singer, which was not our intent. I just Googled DTG. It's DTG Recycle would get you to their website. And then on their website, is that where the videos are, Steve?
Well, I think they've got them it's in YouTube. It's hiding in YouTube land. But I do have a slide pack that I'd be happy to share with anybody to, if you just send me your email, I can send you a slide pack that explains it all.
Yeah, let's do that. And let's see if we could get that on our website.
Yeah, I will put my email in the chat.
Under the plastics program, because I think that would be helpful to folks. So thank you for those questions. We will turn them into a better website for the community. Okay, it looks like DTG Recycle works, so that's good. I just got a message on that. Are there any other questions or comments? Let's see. And then Steve just put his email up there as well. So it looks like there aren't any other. I just want to thank you, Diane, for having us, and thank you everyone for your time tonight. And please stay in touch. Oh, somebody found the specific YouTube link, which is great. Nick found that. So thank you, Nick.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nancy, for presenting to us. I don't see, for our next item, I don't see Kate Riley in attendance. Diane, do you?
I don't see her either. I just sent her an email, so I don't know what
Okay.
happened there.
Okay, well, we're kind of running out of time in any event, so we could put that on for next month's meeting. Is there any open discussion? Is there an item that someone would like to see the community council address in the future? You could bring it up now. You could also bring it to our attention through our website. Our next meeting will be July 4th of all days. See, and I failed to recognize the fact that this is Juneteenth, and this was an important day in American history when the remainder of the Blacks who were still enslaved were notified that they were actually free people by the Army. And so it's now a national holiday, and so is July 4th. But that doesn't stop us from meeting. So look forward to meeting you at the next Vashon-Maury Island Community Council. Moving on now to the Vashon-Maury Community Council. Diane, please take over.
Thank you very much, David. And for those of you who have just joined us, like for the first time, what's going on here is that we are in the process of rebooting the Community Council to become a 501c4 organization, which will enable us to do lobbying to the state and the county, instead of having to not, speak our mind quite so much and not really stand up for what we want on the community. So that's why, and I am the interim president of the new 501c4 organization, which we have voted for the name of Vashon-Maury Community Council. And so I just wanted to let everybody know we don't have much going on yet. We are waiting for the Secretary of State to review our application for to be an organization with the state. And so last time I checked, it looked like they would not get around to reviewing our application until early July. So we're just kind of on hold at the moment. And so we have no new business, but I would like to know if anyone has any questions about the new organization or our process and what we're doing here. Well, seeing none, we will be doing the same thing now. In July 4th, we will be meeting back, and maybe perhaps by then we will have heard back from the Secretary of State about our new organization. So here we are. Look at that. We're finishing right on time. How about that? Thank you, everyone. Really wonderful to have a great turnout for the meeting tonight, and be looking for that email asking for a sign on to volunteer at our Strawberry Festival booth so you can participate in our first fundraising event and sell those wonderful strawberry shortcakes that Mika is going to make and pull together. Okay, thanks everybody. Good night. Have a great month.
Good night.